Hi all, this is Madhushankar from University of Colombo. So today we are going to do a high-level demo um, related to relational databases on a PaaS, as in a platform as a service. And retrieving data from APIs, right? Or endpoints. So there's a couple of things to discuss. You know, in high level, what is a relational database, and what's PaaS, and how that's come in handy, and how to use APIs or endpoints, right? So without further ado, let me share my screen. Let's straight away jump to the platform that we're going to talk about. The platform which is example to PaaS. So let me share my screen. All right. So hope you can see my screen right now. So the platform that we're talking today is 000 web host. So this is there is a free version over here, a trial version. So you can make a free account and give a shot yourself to try out certain things. So once the account is created, right? Yeah. So once the account is created, we'll be getting a dashboard likewise. So there's many services over here. So I would say we can't compare with AWS, because AWS, Azure, so these come as IaaS, as in infrastructure as a service. But in a way we can say like such, right? And also Google for that matter, right? So all this time what you were doing, you had your databases hosted locally, right? Basically you can remember the local host, right? And let me see whether I have it. So likewise, so I have so many projects going on in the PC. So just a matter of like type a local host, we get the projects that we were working on, right? So which means the environment is locally in your machine, right? So no matter how good your system works, right? No, anyone else can't get into your um, you know application or the database. Basically they can't access your database over the internet, right? If that's the case, they also should come to your local network, and within the local network they can access the relevant data, right? Or the web pages or whatever. So as already for that only, we have this set up um, in a server that is exposed to the internet, right? So we can do it on our own also. We have platforms like 000 web host, and there's a lot, right? So what's handy over here is, it's minimum that we have to do in terms of maintenance, right? So hosting a server is a lot. There's a lot to do there, right? But someone else is doing that for us, right? It could be free, or it could be some based on the usage. You can, there's different payment models. Not going to talk about it right now. So that's what's easy, and that's the catchy part over here. So someone else doing the maintenance or the hard part for you, whereas you just come there, focus on your task, right? And get the product going. All right. So that's the purpose of a PaaS or IaaS, right? Right. So there's so many services over here. So today we are going to talk about the file manager and MySQL databases, right? So here onwards, we can just forget in a way, right, that this is localhost, right? Let's say that this is localhost, because true that we are in a different domain, but still from here onward is the same thing with additional features, I would say, right? Um, so if you can recall, there was a fall in Apache XAMPP htdocs, right? Htdocs, yeah. So it's something likewise that we have here, the file manager. So let's double click on it. Let's open that. And meanwhile, let's open MySQL database as well. So let's go through these in a while. So until it loads, let me, okay. Sorry about it. Sorry about it. Sorry about it. All right. All right. So these are the activities that we'll be covering, right? So these are the activities that we'll be covering today, right? And this, right? So first of all, what we have to do, we have to create the account. So I'm not going to walk you through how to create the account. It's, the simple steps. And then we have to create three tables. So here it says user table, but then again, we are moving ahead with students table, right? And then we have, it's making more sense with the other two tables. That's why, right? And the other table says the course table, and we have to have the student and course table. So these are the three tables. So let's see how we can do it, right? So we can create new databases over here, right? I have already created one, so I'm not going to do it. Right, php my admin. So this should be a very familiar interface for you guys. Right. Okay. So this is the database that is created, right? So if we click on it, we have three tables: courses, students, and student courses table, right? Okay. So if we go to students table, so simple information over here: the ID, which is the primary key, and then we have the username, password, first name, last name, and the register number, right? So password, just forget it for the moment. This is the plain text, right? Not hash or anything like that, but because that's not the target over here. So I just want to have mock data, so that's why I just disregard that for the moment. So ID is the primary key of the table, right? And register number will come in handy later on. For example, if you want to fetch some students data, so then we can, instead of referring to the username or anything like that, we can refer to the register number and make our queries more simpler, right? And so this is the primary key, as I told, right? So register number is unique key for is another unique key for each student, right? So that's coming in a operational level, right? In a business level, and business logic level, and ID comes from the engineering point of view, right? So that's how it's done. All right, so let's go to courses table. Again, the same thing, right? We have the ID, which is the primary key, and the course unit, so which acts as a unique key for each course, and the course name itself, and credits for each course and level. Right. Okay. So here, what we have to do, keep in mind, two fields is the ID, the primary key, and the course unit, the unique key for each course. And last not but least, the student by courses list, uh, or the table. So this is where the relation actually happens, right? So this table, we have the ID, right, which is the primary key over here. And if you recall, there were two primary keys in student and courses table. So these keys are brought in to student and courses student is brought into the student course table as foreign keys, right? So if you see here, so foreign keys can duplicate, we all know, right? So if you see here, student one, right? Student, whoever the student who's having the ID one is following three courses, so that's what it says over here, right? And likewise, if we say student 6 is following the courses 3, 4, and 8, right? So let's jump to the students table again, and the courses table, and see what's going on here. So keep in mind, student 1 is following the courses 1, 2, and 3, right? Okay, so let's go to students table and see, right, ID 1, right? If you go through, okay, John. So John is a student, right? So he's studying the courses 1, 2, and 3. So let's go to courses and see, okay, so courses ID 1, 2, and 3. So these are the three courses where the student John is studying, right? So likewise, so this is very structured way. So that's why, and we call this relational databases, right? And this is the SQL, right? There is another technique called non-SQL, and there are technologies like MongoDB and different other ways of doing this, right? Or as like storing data to be more efficient. Let's say, for example, if it's IoT project or something like that, and we need to communicate real-time or live data, right? So then again, at that point, relational databases might not come in handy at certain points. So at that cases, we have to consider non-SQL data storing methods. So the difference between those two methods, I'm not going to talk right now. But in a different way, if I say the difference is the way how it stores data, right? Now here you see it stores as three tables, right, and the relation between, right? But in a non-SQL, the storing method is different, so that's why it's being used to live data, visualizations and things like that, and also big data and things like that. So nowadays engineers are attempt to talk about relational databases as traditional methods of storing data, right? So talk aside, let's go to the activity and see what we have to do. So here onwards, right, we'll be using different techniques how to retrieve data or extract data from these three tables using different techniques, right? So we'll be starting from the basic method, and then we'll be evaluating that through to different and considering the security aspect as well in a degree, all right, and then to get it done. Right. So step by step, the next step is to go to the scripts itself and see what we've done there. So as I told, like the HT docs, we have the file manager in this platform, right? So we have the public HTML. Let's go there. So within the public HTML, we can create PHP files that we need, right? So it could be the UI files as in the HTML, JS, and things like that. It could be PHP, whatever, right? So right now we have a PHP. So no, please not. There's no UIs involved over here at this point, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just bare minimum. Just want to deliver the concepts that we need to follow. So for the moment, let's jump on to index underscore raw data PHP file, and here I'll walk you through what contains in the file, right? So first of all, what we do, we are creating the or we are declaring the login data, login information for the server as a server plus the database, right? So we have that information over here, and then we are creating the connection to the MySQL, right? And we are checking whether there is a successful connection, right? If there is a successful connection, we'll be continuing to these steps. If there's no, we'll be providing an error saying there's a connection issue. Okay, the handshake wasn't made with the server, right? Okay, so let's say that the connection is successful, and then we are jumping in, right? So we are talking about endpoints right now, right? So so this is an example for an endpoint, right? So we'll put this to the browser and see what happens, what data it pulls. But before that, what are the components of a endpoint, right? So we have the protocol, which is HTTPS, and we have the domain, right? Right, and we have the path up to this. So this is the path, right? So if you see here, this is the path. So public underscore HTML is not there, but we know that we can disregard that when it comes to the path, and specifically since it's the public folder, right? Okay, so index. So this is the file, right? And so that's called the path, right? And from the question mark onwards, that's the query. Right. So within the query, we can have X number of parameters. Right. So here we have two. One is the students and all. So these are the two parameters that we are passing in to our SQL queries and fetching data. Right. So if you come here, it's declaring another variable, and this is the exact SQL query. Select all from students table, right? And then we are storing that in results variable, right? If the connection is true, right? Um, check if the query was successful. So how to check the query is successful, right? If the results variable is having a number of rows which is greater than 0, then we have to echo that result out. So which means there was a successful attempt of retrieving data, and we have data right now, right? If the number of rows in result is greater than 0, then we have to echo it out, right? So echoing it out means we can see in the front end, in the UI, um, or in the browser, the retrieved data. So if no, right, if no data was retrieved, it will say connection error, right, or no values were, or zeros results were found, right? So that's the main structure of this code. So let me put this endpoint to the browser and show you what happens, right? Okay, so this is what we see, right? So we are getting data of 20 records right now. If you go and see a database, right, students table, we have 20 records over here. So starting from ID 1 through ID 20. So we have 20 records over here. So these are the 20 that's being pulled from here. So that's what it says in the query. Select all from select all stars the all from students table, right? So that's what we get over here. That's the way to set up a get request or a what or a endpoint in other terms, right? Okay, so here in the future, in the upcoming exercises, we'll discuss how to structure this in a better way, in a more readable way. Now if you see now, though the data is over here, it is sort of has, it's not structured properly, it's just plain text, right? But it has done the job, right? We were able to fetch data. So there's another part over here, how we can specify a certain record and get it extracted from the server. So how to do it, right? So if else we do a connection injection, right? And then we are passing a new variable called reg number. So if you recall over here, we have something called the reg number. So I told when I was introducing this particular field that this will come in handy from a business point of view in the future. So this is that point, right? So we can say, pull me the data of whoever that's registered under register number 1. So if we give this as a parameter to the query, then it will fetch this particular data, right? Fetch this particular record only, right? So so likewise, if we say student number 10, 20, 1, 2, 3, whatever, right? So we can fetch the relevant user data, right? So it shouldn't necessarily be the register number. We can use some other information as well, but these are the good practices that we use, right? Okay, so let's jump into the code again, right? Okay, so we are checking select all from students where the register number is the reg number. So reg number is coming from the get request over here, right? So this is the sample endpoint that we have, right? So it's the same thing up until the path, right? And then the query changes, right? So the previous one's query was students equals all, but here now we are saying the first parameter is, okay, fine, which field to look up? It's the reg number. And then what's the reg number, register numbers value is 1. So that's what we do over here. And then we are passing that over to the query, register number, reg number, right? And it's processing. And again, the same scenario. If the results is greater than the number of rows in the results mm, variable is greater than 0, then we have to echo the rows, right? So row or rows. So when it comes to rows, there's a different technique. We'll be covering that in a while. If not, we can say 0 results or connection error or access denied and finish this off. So that's what happens. So let me show you what happens when we try this out. Enter. As you see, so we are getting the data set of whoever that's relevant to ID number 1. So we'll cross check that. So ID 1 or register number 1. Let's go here. Register number 1 means John, right? This is the first name. So if we go to the other side, we are getting the John's data. So we know there's 20 students, right? So let's say we need the 12th. I don't know who the 12th student is, right? Let's say that we need the 12 students data. Matter of clicking yes, okay. And we get Lucas, right? So let's go and see whether registered, student under the number 12 is Lucas or not. So number 12, we have Lucas over here. So this is the way how to fetch this is one of the ways, fetching all data from the students table and fetching a specific data, a specific entry from the students table. All right. So that was one of the examples. So let's see how we can structure these in a better way, right? Structure our responses in a better way, right? Right. So, or as another thing, how we can, once the result is generated, how can we get use of it in a better way, right? How can we make it actionable dataset or action ready dataset, right? Let's see how we can do, because now structure it will be the same dataset but structuring, right? So there is a method to structure the datasets. Favorite one or one of the most famous one is setting up in JSON, right? So let's go and see an example, what sort of change that we can expect from that, right? So I just closed the file manager mistakenly. Okay. All right. So now here, so this is the file that we checked a while ago. We'll go to index.php and see it's sort of the same thing, right? It's a PHP file, and it's declaring the server name and the credentials basically, and then creating the connection, checking whether there's a successful connection or not, right? And then we are moving on, right? So we can just display a welcome message, right? So this is something in addition. I'll just copy that and show you what happens. We'll say welcome, right? And a quick intro, instructions, what happens and all, right? Okay. Over here, right? So this is the endpoint that we're going to talk about. So it's still the same, right? It's still the same, right? So what's the difference between, it says the index, just the path is different, right? The protocol is the same, the domain is the same, and the path is different because obviously we are in a different file, right? And the query is also the query, and the parameters are also the same, right? But the only difference what happens is the way how we structure the output, right? Before echoing the results out, how we structure it, right? So we get the parameters, students and all. So we are inserting that. So student select all from students, right? And we are storing that over here. And if results are the same thing over, so this part is the same. So if there are if the number of rows in results is greater than 0, then we have to echo it out. But we are not echoing it out, right? If you see here, there is something addition data. So this is a list sort of a thing, right? Um, what we do here, we are accumulating all the entries one after the other, right? And it will not, you know, dump in all as a plain text, right? So that's the approach over here, right? When we have this, while the number of rows in results is, you know, greater than 0, it will fetch data one after the other, or feed data one after the other to the data, right? So that's what it happens here. So this is the empty array that's defined over here, and then we are utilizing that array, right? And then we'll be echoing out this, right? So let's go down and see. So see, right? So echo, and another special thing that we use is JSON encoding. So this is where the styling and the formatting happens, right? And we are echoing through the JSON encoder the array that we just created, right? Or else, as usual, we have the connection error, or 0 results were found, those errors. So let me try this out. Enter. Now see, now this is more structured, more readable, right? We have the key, we have the value, right? So all these are keys, right? So whatever that's in yellowish color are the keys, right? Whatever that's in orangish color is the value, right? So we see, right? Okay, ID 3, username what, password what, first name, last name, register number. It's more clear, but it's the same data set, right? Now hope you get the understanding between the two. So when it's like this, right? And let's say in a UI we have a form, we have to in a table we have to show um, the user information. So when it's structured in this way and in a JSON format, when it comes to the UI, it's really easy to map and get the results generated in the UI or in the forms, right? So that's what we do over there. And let's scroll down and see what we have here. Okay, again, the same thing. I'm not going to explain in detail. Um, it has the register number, right? So like the previous one, the only difference is the folder path. If not, it's the same endpoint, right? So let's put this. So in a structured way, we can get whatever the, so if you can remember, number 12 was Lucas, right? We get Lucas. So what we have to get from this is two methods that we've discussed already, is to get the or retrieve the data from the database, right? So one is a plain text, that's coming as the response. The other way is to get a more structured way. So we are using arrays and JSON encoding. So that's what we do over here, right? So let's jump in to the next activities. So let's see what we have covered. I guess we have covered the entire activity 1, right? So let's jump into activity 2. Right. So here what we have to do, right? Let's explore the other methods of getting these out, right? These out as in fetching the data. Okay, right. So we have a folder called API over here. So this can be anything else, right? Let's call this API for the moment. So this is another structured way of doing this, right? And more importantly, not the best security approach, but then again a security approach that we can implement in a live environment, right? Okay. Now I'll walk you through the structure over here. So for our better understanding and our clarity, only we have all these separate files. If not, we can combine all these. No, 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 disregard that part. We can it's the way how you create your APIs. It could be in one file, or for your clarity you can have multiple files for each task like this. So that's the engineering practices that you follow. No comments over there. And so the main two files are the API files over here, right, or the endpoint files and the index, right? So how it works, not sure whether I have a tool for that. Okay, okay. Can I? Oh, nice. Okay, okay. Okay, right. So how this works is let's say that there is an endpoint, right? And we have the index. We have this file. Okay. We have this file, right? And we have the other files, right? We have these files. So okay, when a user uses one of the endpoints, right? One of the endpoints, it will have the query, and the query will have parameters, right? So based on the query and the parameter, right? The parameters mentioned, it will come that response first will that request first will come to index, and from index file, based on the access levels, the security measures, and if all those are passed, then um it will select the necessary API, and it will push that request to the, or it will trigger the necessary API or the endpoint file itself, right? Or if it's a if all the endpoints are in a single file, it will pull the necessary part of it, right? And then there onwards is the same thing. So there is an additional step over here. That's what we are going to talk about here, right? So it will you'll get a better understanding when we do it. Clear my annotations. Clear all my annotations here. Okay. All right. So let's jump in to index. Okay. So as I told, no, let's start from okay, student data, student courses data. Okay. No, not that, not that, not that. Students data. Okay. Right. So this structure you've already seen, creating the database information, creating the connection, checking whether there is a connection, right? And then there's something new over here. So this is the JSON structuring, right? And it's the same thing, right? Select all from students, right? And then if there is a valid retrieval of data, then we are storing that in a variable that we can store data, an array, right? And then we are echoing that array using JSON encoding, right? So that part I've already covered, right? So it's the same structure, throughout these files. Only thing is the logic is different. So if you go to student, right, the only difference is the SQL query, right? So here what we do, select all from students where register number is the register number that we are passing through the endpoint, right? And if you go to the other one, I'll quickly walk you through all the things so that it's easy. Let's go to courses data. So here we do um, select all from courses table, right? And let's go to courses data. So course data. Here we get only one course information. So right, select all from courses where course unit equals. So course unit means course unit. So when we provide this particular ID, it will fetch the relevant pro. That's it, right? Very simple, right? So let's go to course and students combination. So let's say that we are passing a course ID and we want to see, uh, let's take a true example. CS101, Introduction to Programming. Me as administrator in a university or in a school or wherever, in an institute, I want to know who are the students following the course Introduction to Programming. So then I should have a method to pull that data, right? So what we can do, we can push this code, right, or the course unit as a parameter, right, and fetch the results, and the results will say, okay, these are the students who are following this particular course. So there could be another scenario, right, from a student's point of view. Okay, let's say student John, right, our first student in the student John, right? I could have a scenario, right? I want to see who are the, what are the subjects that John is following, right? So same thing, vice versa, right? From a course point of view and student's point of view, right? The 12th student, Lucas, right? We might, have a requirement to know what are the subjects that Lucas is following. So then it's just a matter of providing Lucas, this is the way how we program, right? It could be the ID, it could be the register number. So ideal in this case to use in the business logics, the register number, right? So we can pass Lucas's register number, which is 12, and get all the list of subjects that he's following, right? So let's go through and see how we are doing it, and most importantly, with the security aspect. So this is not the ideal way to do it, but a method, right, that we can definitely further improve, right, as a concept. Right, so let's go and see. I'm closing this for the moment, right? How to close this? Okay, anyway, right, okay. So I walked you through this, right, let me walk you through this as well. So this is the course underscore students table. So course is the primary, right? We should be able to pass the course ID and fetch the students data. So this is the relation, this is the beauty of the relational tables that we can play around. Okay, so select all from student underscore courses table where course ID is equal to this, right? So what's happening, this request will hit students courses table, right? This will come there. Select all from students where courses, students courses, where course ID is equal to, let's say 5, where course ID is equal to 5, right? So whatever, I told, right, this can get duplicated. So whatever the courses that will say 5, I don't see another 5. I see, right? So if there is an entry there where the course ID is 5, then it will fetch the necessary related data. Right now, in this case, definitely it should pull out student 3 and student information 7 and student information 8. So when we are doing this practically, you can further understand. So which means course 5. So what's the course number 5? Course 5 means software engineering. So software engineering is studied by 3 students, is what we learn from there, right? So let's keep a pause there and see what happens in the next one. Student underscore courses. So this was course underscore student, right? So what's happening here now? Student is a subject, right? So we are passing the student ID. Again, the request is going to the student underscore courses table, where student ID is whatever the ID that we're passing, right? So let's say that we are passing the student ID 12, right? Or the register number, no, in this case not the register number, the ID, right? 12, right? Which is Lucas, right? We can find out what are the subjects that Lucas is doing. So let's figure out manually, right? So Lucas is 12, we know, right? Let's go here. Let's go to number 12. So we can see here, Lucas is following, right? Well, student ID is 12. Lucas is following the subjects, the courses 9, 10, and 14, right? So that is the structure of this program, right? So what index is doing, so that's what's happening through all these tables, all these files or the scripts, right? But there's something special that's happening in index, right? Let's go and see. Okay, before that, okay. Let's go to index. Okay. So here we don't have any connections, that's created or anything like that. But the structure seems, slightly different, right? So let's see. All right. So here we have a couple of things. So one thing is this key, right? So this is the API key, right? Or the key for this particular, action, right? So at this point, this is a static key that we have, typed, or right? But that's why I told this is an approach, but not the idea, right? So we can further develop this to have a mechanism where the key is getting generated maybe by request if it's really needed, or by session. So we can create a API key when the request comes in for the first time, and then after X amount of time we can um, expire it and maybe regenerate if needed, right? So security wise, it's really good. So in the previous cases, right, it's just a matter of we had the protocol, we had the domain, and then the folder path up to the question mark, right? and we just had a query, and the query contained just the parameters, basically student equals all or whatever that information. We didn't have any keys or anything like that. But in this case, what's new is we have a key, and after checking the key, we have an %. The key should match, and then we have the request, right? Then we have a request actually, right? Let's take another one. It's the same thing up until here, right? And here it says the key and the request. Again, the request, and we have additional parameters that we need. So what's the request? What's the request, right? So this is our new secured endpoint that we have. So what's happening when we put this particular endpoint in the browser, right? It will come up until this, as it will come to this particular file, right, which is in the public directory, right? So no issues coming here. So it will come here, and it will check whether this key is equals to this particular key or not, right? If you see, this is exactly what's mentioned over here, right? So in an ideal scenario, a user will not keep typing these keys in the URL or any other place, right? The This will be handled in the background, right, in the UI's background or in the backend. Only these things will be handled, right? The sessioning out and all these things will happen in the background, right? So in the simple term, previously we were able to give the protocol, the domain, and the path, and if the request is correct, or not the request, the query is correct, then anyone can fetch data because this is in the net, right? But now, since we have additional step, the key should match. So no matter there is whether the endpoint is exposed, right, without the key, right, unauthorized users will not be able to fetch the data, right? And let's say, since they in this example, hypothetically, if the key is also exposed, what if we have a system to expire the session, right, or the key after some 5 minutes, 3 minutes, if it's dormant, there's different triggers that we can use, right? If that's the case, it's really secure, right? There's other ways of securing as well, encrypted data packages and stuff like that. But as a start, this is really good, right? So what happens, right, it will check for the, let me clear this. Okay, so it will clear this, so it will check for this key, and if the key is correct, then it will pass the request, and the request is student, right? So the request will come, and it will start checking, right? We have a switch case break situation over here, so it will start checking over again what suits what, right? So it says students, right? So it will come and check for students. Oh, okay, fine, we find the case students, right? And we have the path, right? So we are going out of this directory over to the road, which is API, and in API find the file students data underscore php, right? If not, break and move to the other one, right? So that simple routing paths happens over here, right? So previously what we did, we straight away went to this particular folder or file and then executed the script, right? That's how we got the JSON data and the structured data and the plain text also, right? But here, right, we have additional step with the key. It will check that, and then it's routing to the necessary folder, necessary file. So let's go one step back. Let's duplicate this. So coming one step back from index.php, which is an API, will be landing over here, right? And then this is instructing to go to students underscore data.php. Students underscore data.php. Students. Okay. We have to, it's routing to go to this location. So it will go to this location. And this says you have to get all students, right? So as it says all students, right? So it will come here. It will get all the students data. So basically from here onwards it's the same thing. So it will create the necessary connection with the database, right? It will go to the relevant table, right? If there are data, it will store in the array, and it will echo the array data, right? So it's that simple, right? Let's do this practically also and see, right? And let's go to another scenario over here. Let's take this, the third one, right? And that we need to get one specific student's data, right? So it will pass a couple of things. So as previous, we have the protocol, the domain, the path, the key, and we have the query from here. We have to check for the students, for the student, and yeah. So the case is student, and we have to check the student's register number, which is 1, right? So that's the request that we are getting, right? So if we come over here, so it will start from here, right? From the top, it will start the cases. Okay, student. So we have to find the student case. So it will break this. It will come here. Again, it will break it because that's causes. It will break it and it will come here. Okay, fine. We found student. And it says we have to include, and we have to go one step back and go to student underscore data PHP file. And it's breaking from there, right? So what happens meanwhile? Yeah, so it breaks from there, and then we can go to the other folder, other file, student data, right? So here it will come, right? And then we have the we are from the get API, we are getting this particular query, right? Or the parameter, and then we are passing that parameter over to our SQL query and fetching the data, right? So that's what we do over here, right? So quickly I'll use a couple of endpoints to show you how it works, right? So let's take the first one, right? Get all data from students table. Let's copy this endpoint and paste it here. It should give you the same results as we were trying previously, but this is coming with the additional security level, right? So we have our key over here. How to anyway, so we have our key over here, right? So if we change our key, so last letter is M, let's take off M and enter. It will not fetch any data, right? So that's why I told we have to have the same key from the front end and from the back end for us to make a successful data retrieval. So that's the security point here, and we can go to the other things as well. Let's go to this endpoint. Let's try that out. Likewise, so we are getting the necessary information related to register number one, student register number one, right? And likewise, let's say that we need to change, right? We are getting the data related to student three. So what happens in a high level? We are getting the request from the front end, right? So this is the and so this is the front end, right? So from the front end, so in an ideal scenario, this could be a button that we are clicking, and we might not see um, the endpoint also certain times, right? So the request is sent to the index file in public, right? So it's over here, right? So it will come to this particular folder file, and then from there it will check, okay, which relevant file needs to get triggered, right? And then that particular file will be triggered, right? And based on the parameters that's passed, right? So it's like by student ID or whatever, through the endpoint, right? The data will be fetched as normal. So these are the techniques that I wanted to discuss today, right? So we've discussed how like what is PaaS and how that works, how that's coming in handy, relational databases, and how to use endpoints to retrieve data, right? And as plain text, and how to you know to restructure it using JSON encoding, and then we learned how to use the API key, right, to secure the retrieval of data or feeding data up to a level, right? So there's more to talk from there onwards from the about the security aspects of it, but the goal was to cover this area for today, and yeah, thank you so much for joining, and this is what we have for the day for this session. Thank you.